In cluster B, we also have the histrionic personality disorder, and these are individuals whose patterns of behavior are overly dramatic, generally sensational and sexually provocative. This individual would certainly exhibit impulsive behavior and have a need to be the center of attention. Their thinking and emotion excuse me, their thinking and emotions are perceived as shallow. This is a common diagnosis in females who would demonstrate this particular cluster of symptomology. We're looking in terms of causes and an etiology that's largely unknown. We also look at histrionic personality disorder as being a more sex-typed variant of the antisocial personality disorder. So more males tend to be antisocial personality disorder, where more females tend to demonstrate this overly dramatic, sensational, and sexually provocative behavior that's being used to certainly shape the people around them, as we talked about. And it's caused by poor thinking, poor affect, and other conditions that contribute to personality disorder. Treatment, again, we have few outcome studies for good treatment for histrionic personality disorder. The treatment does focus on attention seeking and long-term negative consequences of attention seeking and or risky behavior in the individual's life. The targets may also include problematic interpersonal behaviors, but there's little evidence that treatment is effective. The histrionic personality disorder is a pervasive pattern of excessive emotionally and attention-seeking behavior, usually beginning in early adulthood, and is present in a variety of contexts, as is indicated in 5 or more of the following. So contextually, an individual who goes out at night to party with their friends, dresses provocatively, is out having an attention-seeking, sexually seductive, interactive experience once in a while is not somebody with a histrionic personality disorder. This individual would definitely have to have this kind of behavior present in a variety of contexts and indicated by 5 or more of the following. Is uncomfortable in situation where this individual is not the center of attention. The interaction with others is often characterized by inappropriate sexual, seductive, or provocative behavior. The way a person dresses, the way the persons are behaving with others, the way they are connecting to people in terms of personal space, how they are behaving kinesthetically around others, displaying rapidly shallow expression of emotions, not having a deep thinking emotional center, consistently uses physical appearance to draw attention to themselves, has a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic and lacks detail and substance, shows a self-dramatization, theatrically and exaggerated expression of motion. So really over the top, exaggerated expressions of motion, the kind of expression of emotion that takes place on a stage in a play, is suggestible, easily influenced by others in other circumstances, and consider relationships to be more intimate than they really are. So this is the kind of individual that certainly all of a sudden meets somebody and they become their best friend. They're important to them. They're their confidant, and this relationship, or has ideas that others around them have, who they are very infrequently connected with, are actually more intimate with them than really the reality is. The narcissistic personality disorder is an individual whose exaggerated and unreasonable sense of self-importance and has a preoccupation with receiving attention and lacks the sensitivity and compassion for other people, is highly sensitive to criticism and tends to be envious and arrogant. This has a lot to do with early failure to learn empathy as a child. The core essence of the narcissistic personality disorder is a challenge with this idea of having empathy for others, and is a product of, and from a sociological perspective, is a product from the focus of the individual, the me. Treatment options are limited. Treatment focuses on the idea of grandiosity, this focusing on empathy and the unrealistic thinking the individual might have. Treatments may include co-occurring depression, and there's little evidence of how effective these treatments can be for individuals with narcissistic personality disorder. A pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy is the diagnostic criteria beginning in early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, again, as indicated by 5 or more of the following. Has a grandiose sense of self-importance, exaggerates achievements and talents, and expects to be recognized as a superior without a commensurate achievement. So somebody who may not have commensurate achievements in areas of experience, but this individual would want to be recognized as superior without that achievement. Is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited power and success and brilliance and beauty and ideal love. Believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should be associated by high status or special people or institutions. Requires excessive admiration, has a sense of entitlement in as unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment of automatic compliance when this individual has that expectation of favorable treatment, is interpersonally exploitative and takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends, lacks empathy, is unwilling to recognize or identify the feelings and the needs of other individuals, and is often envious and believes that others are envious of him or her. They're arrogant, haughty, and have a behavior and attitude that is arrogant. So that is the diagnostic criteria of the narcissistic personality disorder. The cluster C is the avoidant personality disorder, the first, and this cluster is somebody who's extremely sensitive to the opinions of others, highly avoidant of most interpersonal relationships, and are interpersonally anxious and fear rejection. What causes the individual to be highly sensitive to others and to feel anxious and worry about rejection and avoiding the others in their lives? It could be early development, difficult temperament, and of course produces early rejections. There are certainly many causes of this particular cluster. Several well-known controlled studies exist for the avoidant personality, and treatments to help people with the avoidant personality would be similar to those used for social phobias, so exposure, response prevention, and other thinking kinds of cognitive behavioral approaches. Treatments begin to target social skills and anxiety as well. The avoidant personality disorder is a pervasive pattern of social inhibition, feelings and inadequacy, and hypersensitivity to negative evaluations or perceived negative evaluations beginning in early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts indicated by 4 of the following. Avoids occupational activities and involves significant interpersonal contact because of fear of criticism, disapproval, and rejection. The unwilling to get involved with other people unless being liked. Having a certain of being liked, so not taking the risk, worrying about being liked. Shows restraint with an intimate relationship because of fear of being shamed or ridiculed, is preoccupied with being criticized or rejected in social situations, is inhibited in a new interpersonal situation because of feelings of inadequacy, and because of feelings of social ineptitude, personal unappealing and inferior to others, they avoid in being in the company of others, and is usually reluctant to take personal risks or engage in new activities because these activities may prove embarrassing and or they might be rejected. The part of the cluster includes the dependent personality disorder. So this is excessive reliance on others to make major or minor life decisions. This individual would be unreasonable, fearing abandonment, have a tendency to be clingy, submissive in interpersonal relationships. And so again, many people have this kind of unreasonable fears and clingy, submissive kind of interpersonal dynamics. But when the individual is affected by these symptoms to the point where it is affecting their ability to work and have relationship with others and be in social settings, that's when we are disordered. And what causes the dependent personality disorder is still unclear. It again is probably linked to early disruptions and learning of independence at a younger ages. These are new sort of ideas of pulling apart these personality disorders, and research or treatment of efficacy is lacking. Therapy typically is gradual, targets skills, and fosters of independence and feelings of independence, and certainly a cognitive behavioral approach would be used for any of the personality disorders. The dependent personality disorders are pervasive and excessive need to take care of the leads to submissive or clinging behavior and fears of abandonment or separation beginning in early adulthood. Present in terms of 5 of the following symptoms: having difficulty making everyday decisions without having the excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. Needs to others to assume responsibility for major areas of their life. This individual won't make the decision themselves. Has difficulty expressing disagreement with others because of a fear of loss of support or approval. And again, this is not realistic fears or retributions. These are unrealistic or perceived ideas. Has difficulty initiating projects or doing things on their own because of lack of self-confidence or judgment and ability, or lack of motivation or energy. It's not really that. It's more about the judgment. So the individual has the ability and the motivation, but more about judgment and self-confidence. Goes to excessive lengths to obtain nurturance and support from others, to the point of volunteering to do things that even aren't unpleasant to this individual so they can have that reassurance or nurturing from others. Feels uncomfortable or helpless when alone, and exaggerates feeling of being unable to care for themselves. Urgently seeks other relationships as a source of support when another course of close relationship would end, and is unrealistically preoccupied with fears of being left to take care of themselves. So this is the symptoms of a personality disorder, dependent personality disorder. In the cluster, we also have the obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, excessive or rigid fixation on doing things the right way, and tends to be highly perfectionistic, orderly, and emotionally shallow. And the obsessive-compulsive obsessions and compulsions are rare. So this is more of a obsessive to have things be the right way, and are perfectionistic and are orderly, but are not having compulsions where they have to do rituals to fix obsessions that they might have around thinking of wrong things happening or preventing of disasters and things like that. So this is somebody who is more focused on rigid thinking and having things in perfectionistic kind of personality. Again, we all know and think about people who might be want things exactly in a particular way and have things organized and are neat and clean and organized. And if this doesn't interfere in their life and doesn't interfere in their ability to work and function, then perhaps it's not a disorder. It's more of a obsessive compulsive personality. Maybe that's like all of these disorders. It's not disordered until it interferes with their life. So, that's something to remember as well. The causes are generally unknown. We have little data to support treatment, but treatments are really about fear of related to the need for orderliness, and often targets procrastination and feelings of inadequacy and things like that. So the obsessive-compulsive personality is a preoccupation for orderliness, perfectionism, and mental and interpersonal control at the expense of flexibility and openness and efficiency, beginning by early adulthood and presenting in the variety of contexts. So people who are obsessive-compulsive kind of personalities may not have the disorder if their personality is not hindered by, or their ability to function or the expense of their life is not hindered by being flexible, open, or efficient. Is occupied with details, rules, lists, order, or organization, or schedules, shows perfectionism in tasks, and is unable to complete a project because of his or her strict standards of being not met. This individual is excessively devoted to work and productivity to the exclusion of leisure activities and friendships. And this is not accounted for obvious economic necessity where people have to have two jobs and they don't have a life because they need to focus on working to make enough money to make ends meet. We're talking about somebody here who's really focusing on productivity and devotion in an excessive way. This is an over conscientious, scrupulous and inflexible about matters of morality, ethics, and values. Again, these are not accounted for by religious or cultural identification, but driven by other obsessive compulsive thinking. Is unable to discard worn out or worthless objects even when they have no sentimental value. Is reluctant to delegate tasks or to work with others unless they submit to exactly his or her way of doing things, and adopts to a miserly spending style towards both themselves and others, where money is viewed as something that is hoarded for future catastrophes. And finally, is showing rigidity and stubbornness. So this is the overall diagnostic criteria. The personality disorders that are under study in terms of new personality disorders are the sadistic personality disorder, where the individual's behavior that's causing a detriment to their life is focusing around sadistic behaviors, self-defeating personality disorder, and new categories of DSM personality disorders that are under study are the depressive personality disorder and the negativistic personality disorder. In terms of a summary of the personality disorders, they are long-standing, ingrained ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. There is disagreement in terms of how to categorize personality disorders via categorical or dimensional or some combination of both. And the DSM-5 now includes 10 personality disorders that fall under 3 clusters, A, B, and C, which we've reviewed in this course. And the causes of personality disorders themselves are difficult to pinpoint, although most of the personality disorder and research that we have really focuses on early learning experience as one of the integrative combinations of factors that contribute to the personality disorder. And what's most challenging is that treatment of personality disorders is often very difficult.